Good evening, TDN listeners and viewers. Good evening to you, my audience, on This Week in Interview. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Interview with your host, Anthony Drago. I'm super excited as usual. I always tell you that Wednesday is the highlight of my week because I get to spend an hour or so with you on This Week in Interview, and I get to talk to awesome people that I normally wouldn't get a chance to talk to if I did not have this role as the host of This Week in Interview. So I want to say a very special welcome to you. Those of you who are my regular listeners, I want to tell you very special welcome, and I hope that tonight is just as how you always experience This Week in Interview. It's a program that is full of information. If tonight is the first time that you're listening to This Week in Interview, welcome. I hope you like the time that you spend with us so that you too can become a regular listener. There are some of you who are in Dominica listening to me. Good night to you on the Nature Isle. I hope all is well. I understand that there's a little bit of rain in some parts of the island. Enjoy cool weather. It makes for really good sleep. If you're listening to us on RVR Jams on DigiPlay channel 59 special, good evening to you and to the management and staff of RVR Jams. RVR Jams is the sister station, if you want to say. They collaborate with us sometime. They are an online radio station and they broadcast in Dominica on DigiPlay channel 59. Share the live, people. I always invite you to invite at least 5 people to join us because we have a lot of information that we give to folks. And so the more people who get that information is the more informed that they can be. This Week in Interview audience are some of the most informed people anywhere on social media. Tonight, I have a very special program for you. My guests tonight are from the Kalinago people. Mr. Donalson Frederick and Mr. Prosper Paris are from the Kalinago people, and Mr. Donalson is a development officer with the department, a government officer with the Department of Kalinago Affairs, and Mr. Prosper Paris is a cultural officer, and he is a coordinator of Kalinago Events. He's the coordinator of the Kalinago Events Committee. And so the Kalinago people just celebrated a week of activities. A week of activities where they enjoyed their self, they enjoyed their culture, but they also got to do some education and some sharing of what their people are with the rest of Dominica and visitors alike. And so I thought I would bring them on because it was pretty interesting, so that they could bring some of that knowledge and some of that information to you. And so I'm super excited to have 2 of the gentlemen who are at the heart of all of these events and activities. And so I want to say a very, very special good evening to all my Kalinago people out there, and those of you who are in Dominica, those of you who are not in Dominica, those of you who are related to the Kalinago people. Very special good evening to you. It's the first time that we're doing a Kalinago-centered program. Although I have had Kalinago people on board, we have writers like Roy Sanford and so on, who's been on a few times with me, talking about his work, and his tremendous writing, and some of his work is set in the Kalinago territory. And so there's some familiarities here, but it's the first time that we have a program that is actually centered around the Carinago people. So I'm super excited about that. Before I go much further, we always do the Caricom Anthem when we start. So let's take a quick pause, do the Caricom Anthem, and when I come back, I'm going to be joined from Dominica by Mr. Prosper Paris and Mr. Donalson Frederick, and we're going to be talking Kalinago. The Kalinago people are in the spotlight tonight. So stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Distant lands, our forefathers came, some seeking adventure, some bound in chains. Through battles waged and fought, through victory and pain, by test of their courage, our freedom was gained. In homage to those gone before us, the heroes of lands in the sun, we vow to join hands and to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum for Carinago. Though great and diverse be our ethnicities, the bonds that unite us are stronger than these. We die, we pray, we love, we dance and we play. We relate to each other the West Indian way. Today as a people united, determined and steadfast we stand. We look to a brand new horizon, the future now firmly in our hands. Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum for Carinago. Hele, hele, guavo, open you sing Carinago. Lepe, lepe, guavo, naki you drum Carinago. Tabu ya tabu awo, open you sing Carinago. Lepe, lepe, guavo. Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel our hearts beat as one. Celebrate in song as we rise to heights where we belong. Sound the victory drum for Carinago. Hele, hele, guavo, open your sing Carinago. Lepe, lepe, guavo. Hele, hele, tabu ya tabu awo, naki your drum Carinago. Lepe, lepe, guavo.
Yeah, good evening, listeners. And as you say, every week I play the CARICOM anthem. I'm re-engaged in the whole aspect of development of the Caribbean people and development of us as one, going forward together, facing the world as one people. And so I'm excited tonight because you know what? We have descendants of the original people of the Caribbean with us tonight. Tonight on this week in interview, if you joined late, uh, our focus is going to be on the Kalinago people. We have two gentlemen from the Kalinago people, Donalson Frederick, who is a development officer with the Department of Kalinago Affairs, and Mr. Prosper Paris, who is a cultural officer uh, for Kalinago. He's a cultural officer and a coordinator of the Kalinago Events Committee. And I don't know if you missed it. If you did, you missed a real experience. The Kalinago people just had a week of activities, and they had a tremendous list of activities that I am sorry that I was not in Dominica to attend, and I hope it's going to be an annual event, and so maybe I'll get to attend next year or the following year. But they had so many aspects of Kalinago life and Kalinago culture and Kalinago heritage on display. And so I thought those of us who did not have the privilege to be able to attend in person, we could bring a little bit of it to you. I would have hoped to have done it before the week, but it came to my attention. We were already booked, and so we decided that we were going to bring them as soon as possible, and tonight was the first night. So join me in extending a very warm welcome to Mr. Donalson Frederick and Mr. Prosper Paris. And they're here to just talk Kalinago and inform you and educate you about their people and the aspirations of their people, the plights of their people, the opportunities, and all of that. So I'm going to start with Mr. Paris, Mr. Prosper Paris. I'm going to start with you and tell you welcome to this week in interview. Welcome to TDN Radio, TDN TV. So we stream on Facebook, on this week in interview Facebook page, on TDN Radio Facebook page. We also stream on, for those that don't do Facebook, we have tdntv.net. You can view us there. And those who may be driving and don't have access to view us, they can listen to us on the radio, tdnradio.net. And so, and of course, we're on YouTube as well. TDN Network 1 is where you will find us on YouTube. So we're all over social media. But as I was saying, Mr. Paris, welcome to this week in interview. Welcome to TDN. It's a pleasure to have you. I was very honored when you consented to be my guest, one of my guests on this week in interview. I want you to introduce yourself to the audience, and while you have the mic, take the opportunity to just tell the people about your people. There are some Kalinago people in the audience. When I sent out the flyer today, I got a lot of responses that said my father was Kalinago and so on. My grandmother was Kalinago. So there are some of your people in the audience, but we also have folks who are not even Dominican on it. So I want you to introduce yourself and then introduce your people to the audience.
Ayahura, Ayahura. Yaitsina Nikotubulo. Wewe, Hatina. Which means my name is Nikotubulu, so it's my Kalinago name. I am Prosper Paris. I'm a culture officer attached to the Ministry of Kalinago Affairs. I'm also the coordinator of the events committee that coordinates events throughout the year. My lifetime has been the president and director of the Caribbean Cultural Group, the longest surviving cultural group on the island and in the Kalinago territory. I'm from the Kalinago territory. I'm from a hamlet called Badaka. For those of you out there who are Dominican and who are Kalinagos in diaspora, I'm from Badaka, and most of you maybe will know me. I worked my lifetime as a cultural person. And then I became a cultural officer, doing certain projects of language and very uplifting our cultural aspect in all the forms of from the craft to the presentation in dance and herbal medicine and language, all these aspects of our culture. I play a role in it into restoring and try to maintain and to revive our culture. The Kalinago people, we are the last remnants of the last indigenous tribe, I would say, in the Caribbean. And we live in the northeast of Dominica, population just over 3,000 that live in the territory, and many more that live around Dominica. Of course, we know that many Dominican has Kalinago ancestry. So if you, most people would identify themselves as Kalinago, but those are residing in the Kalinago, there's about 3,500 persons. And we live in an area which is very rugged. We do agriculture. We still do what the canoe, and our craft work has been one of the most famous in the Caribbean, or beautiful basket weaving. And we still do a sort of agriculture, but we have integrated it in mainstream development of Dominica. And so we have made it through a lot of our persons now have gained opportunities for higher education. So we have a lot of people in the professional sector, in the private sector, in the public sector. Our territory is developing. We're still recovering from the Maria, which is the Hurricane Maria, and also just waking up from the effect of COVID on the business sector and on different aspects of our livelihood, which have had an impact on. So this is my territory in just a brief moment. We will can talk about that later, and if you want a specific question about what we do and what we do. But I'm happy to be on the program. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. Mr.
Mhm.
Donalson Frederick. A very warm welcome to you as well, and me and you as well. Made me very happy, very glad when you accepted our invitation to come on and to talk to us. And so I'm honored to have you. Welcome to you. I'm going to do the same thing and give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience as well as to introduce your people, the Kalinago people. Your mic is muted, probably.
And thank you so much
Yes,
for
I
the.
can hear you now.
All right, great.
Can you start again because only now we hear you.
Yeah, sure. Yes. So I want to say good evening to our listeners, and of course, Mr. Drago, thank you very much for the opportunity for us to be here tonight. My name is Donalson Frederick, like you've said. I am the Carinago Development Officer in the Division of Kalinago Affairs. Of course, a division that is responsible for the indigenous people on the island. Mr. Prosper Paris is one of my staff, and I am happy to work with him as one of the elders and cultural icons in the Kalinago territory, who have had a lot of experience in the field of preserving our culture and heritage. So I am very privileged to be here with him tonight. I really honor the opportunity to be here with him this evening as we discuss Kalinago Week 2022, which just took place recently. Um, I know he touched a little bit on the Kalinago and so on. I just want to bring a little bit of context to that as well. The indigenous people of Dominica, we, the Kalinagos, we've been documented to have migrated to the island in Wales from South Africa, and that took place over a period of approximately 400 years. And by 1000 BC, AD, sorry, several tribes had settled on the island, which of course was named Waitukubuli. And the Waitukubuli, as you may know, it may translate to tall is her body. And of course, when you look at Dominica geographic topography, you would have seen the mountains, the valleys, and how tall those mountains are. And so we are very privileged to be in such a land of the living, which is called the nature island of Dominica.
Thank you for that. Now, I'm going to stay with you for a minute because I don't know if you guys are aware, but I'm from the village of Castle Bruce.
Of
So
course, we
I
are.
grew up
Yeah, your surname speaks volume.
6 points up, right? So I like to think I'm very familiar with the Kalinago territory. Grew up in Castle Bruce. There was a lot of mixing between Castle Bruce people and people of the Kalinago territory. Um, Culturally, carnival time, there was always a Kalinago band that would come into Castle Bruce. A lot of Kalinago people used to come to do groceries and stuff. And we used to also go to the Kalinago territory because my family, we did cassava and we did some of those other things. And we would go sometimes and get a little bit of technical advice on growing and planting cassava and also to buy craft, buy baskets and so on. So I grew up as your neighbor. I want
Right,
to
right.
start, Donaldson, by asking you, what does it mean to the Kalinago people to have representation in government in the form of actually having uh, a division in the ministry that is 100% dedicated to looking after Kalinago affairs, the division of Kalinago affairs? How did that come about? What does it mean? Do you see it making a difference in the lives of the people?
Right. I thank you very much for this question. I think it means a lot for the indigenous people on the island. It has been a struggle for years for government to hear the voice of the people, and so the initiative was brought along to assist in ensuring that the indigenous people voices are heard at that level. Um, the the the, the Formerly it was a division under the office of the prime minister, and it later became a ministry. So there was a ministry of Kalinago Affairs,
Okay.
of which of course you had a minister representing the Carinago people in parliament. It later moved on to the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization and Kalinago Upliftment, and under this current ministry, we will now have the Department of Kalinago Affairs, which is of course charged with the responsibility to ensure that the programs of government, the initiatives, the benefits meet the indigenous people on the island. So I think it's something significant, and we from central government um, try our best to ensure that the Kalinago people on the island benefit from all programs that the government has in place.
Awesome. So I'm sure we will come back to that as we talk about some of the maybe challenges and opportunities. But I'm going to go to Prosper, Mr. Prosper Paris, and as you said, a cultural icon. You said you were the president of the Carifuna Cultural Group for for years, and the Carifuna Cultural Group has represented Dominica at so many events, I think all over the world, because I would hear that that the group is performing in this area, that function, and of course in Dominica locally, you would take front and center in representing your people and showing that the Kalinago culture is part and parcel of the Dominican culture altogether. I want to ask you though, as a cultural officer, so let's talk about that week of activity, the week of activities of the Kalinago people. What is the objectives, and maybe we can talk some of the events that you put up as part of that week of activities.
Yes, we had a beautiful week of activity. And first of all, we had a theme which is building resilience through Kalinago heritage, pride in people, strength in community. So we always have first a theme, and we work towards our program of activities go around that theme to ensure that it takes um, center stage into promoting, into bringing awareness, educating our people, and also have to a chance to showcase our cultural heritage through entertainment, through cuisine, through dance, through our art and craft, and all those things into one, so that we offer a package to the visitors and to the Kalinago people themselves and our local populace, so that they can enjoy but also learn something during the week. So we started with from the 9th of September, we had a media launch, and then we took a break until we started our activities supposed to be on the 16th, but we had a rain. So actually our main activity began on the 18th, where we had a memorial service in honor of the last surviving victim of the Kalinago resistance. And we also had planned a sports. This was affected severely by the weather, but we had a wonderful day on Monday, a smoke ceremony where we honor our elders and our past heroes in a very cultural and unique way in the form of a smoke ceremony. And Monday, the 19th, which is the most significant day, because on the 19th of September, that's when we had of what we call referred to as the Caril Fracas, where there's a resistance by the Kalinago people that resulted in many Kalinagos being shot by the police, the colonial police at the time, and two succumbed to the wound and died. And that is what brought about, and we were left from that day without a chief for 25 years. And when we did get back a chief, we had to get back in the status was lower. So that is why we celebrate and observe Kalinago Week during the 19th of September. So we honor those people there, and we also had what we call an award ceremony, where we recognize and we celebrate our people who are doing work and are continuing to do work in the Kalinago territory by giving them the flowers while they're alive. We give them the award and recognize them in different fields from education, agriculture, sports, long service in health, and voluntary people that do voluntary work. So we honor all these people in higher education. So we honor them and to encourage them. Is a means of really encouraging them not to when they're dead to say, okay, let's make something. But while they're alive, we need to motivate them and to use them as a model for young people to emulate and to continue the work of the Kalinago people. So you have this happening, and on Tuesday we visit the elders. On Wednesday with the spelling bee, where we're going to we do a language, which is so important in our culture, with a spelling bee competition, and the four school participated. On Thursday we spent a whole day of history teaching young kids the history. We had Honorable Kozier Frederick, who is our minister, but also Pal Rep that came and spent the whole day teaching our history. We had a launching a video of the Kalinago Language Initiative on that same Thursday. On Friday, we were live on GBS Radio with a story night. It was a time of fun, but we want to bring back all that is bringing back our heritage back, bringing people to know what was because now we are in a modern times where people stick to their cell phones and people use their fingers more than anything else, and we forget about the nice pastime we had at nine nights and at weeks that we had games and storytelling, and all this is losing out. So that was a wonderful day on the 23rd, and then on the 24th, we climaxed with Oh Miss Kalinago, which was washed by the rain on the 17th, where we had five intelligent ladies vying for the Miss Kalinago pageant queen. And that again is a fairly what do you call tense contest competition. But in that show, they promote Kalinago dress, they promote the Kalinago fashion. People who vend in the area, provide the Kalinago food. So it was all Kalinago in different very areas. So the cuisine, the education, entertainment, all wrong. So I can tell the public we had a very successful week. Those program we had, and all we're looking forward that we can do a yearly thing and improve on the quality and the product we have. And we'll appeal to the people who are out there so you can put it on your calendar of events that you can come down during Kalinago week every September.
Every September, and you do it to coincide on the 19th of September because that
Right.
is a significant date in Kalinago history. Very very interesting week of activities. Um, I was especially fascinated by the spelling bee um, and the language part of it because I it's one of the things that I shouldn't say I fear or I think about a lot is extinction. So not necessarily extinction of people, but extinction of your language. And I was so I got goosebumps when you introduce yourself in your language because it's the first time I've heard it. It's the first time I've heard your language spoken, even if I grew up in the village next to you. And so I want you to I want to stick with you a little bit and just talk about that part of it, the spelling bee, the the highlighting of your language, and you said there's a video that was launched.
Yes, yes. The work of myself and some other people that look forward for the language and what the work has been done, what is being done. It gives us a chance after the video to really talk about it, have an interaction. What is the way forward for language? And we were able to put a team together of people together who watch the video and say, "I want to be part of it." And that was so important. I was so encouraged by that when people volunteers say, "I want to be part of the movement for the restoration of the Carinago language." I wouldn't blame you if you didn't hear the language because I grew up part of half of my life not really interested in language. At my age, there was only one gentleman in my village, one from Sileku, who spoke a little bit of Kalinago language. And it was way back and was a council in the 80s that we accessed Raymond Breton, which was a missionary priest, French, who lived in Guadeloupe and among the Kalinagos in the 17th century. and then he wrote a dictionary of Kalinago's language. So we had access to that, even though we know the Bishop of Roseau had that, but he didn't give it to us because it was fragile to recopy the whole complacent about not giving us the book. Finally, we got a copy, and then a photocopy was made from it. Eight copies, and they were distributed. But people never take much attention to it. I was driven by the culture, Carifuna cultural group, of course, would say, well, okay, we want to maintain and revive. And part of it was the language, because culture is like a shell, what they call an oyster, everything inside. When you take out language from that, you have an empty shell. So it is, when you take out language from any culture, you can safely say that other form of culture will disappear with it. So bringing back language, it ensures that everything is coming back to take its rightful place. And why can we start? But within the school system, where you start to introduce a language to younger people and make them have an interest in it. And so we are starting to give, we have a program every day for 2 years now on DBS radio, Kalinago Word for the Day, every morning,
Oh,
about
really? Okay.
about 10 to before the news, 10 to 7. We have a program every day, Kalinago Words. Every day we give them a Kalinago word for Dominican, and everybody else know it in radio land, here the Kalinago Word for the Day. Sometimes we give short phrases, and we continue to work. The work is primarily between myself and Gerald Lanley, Mabrica. I don't want to leave him out because we thought was more at the forefront into researching and to look at different language and to create different sentences and advocate state for language. So I have made a CD, my group, Carifuna, and we have 6 songs that we use language in it because I thought that it is a good thing that you don't speak every day the language, but if you have a CD, for example, and you sing a song, you might retain some meaning of that. We also had a small language name initiation where on Kalinago Week or World Indigenous Day, that is August 9th, that we do an initiation where we rename people. If you want a Kalinago name, that you can come and register with us, and we have a ceremony, and then we rename you. That is why I said my name is Nico Tubulu. I was part of that renaming initiation, where and there are about almost 200 people that are already Kalinago and non-Kalinagos, but have Kalinago ancestry, and some of Kalinago ancestry that has give themselves Kalinago names. It is an informal way of teaching the language because if you know 10 of your friends, you know the name in Kalinago, that the 10 Kalinago word you know and you know the meaning. So it's an informal way, and we're trying to find other avenues of interaction where it is not going into the classroom because since you're not speaking it, but have more interaction where you can use the word more on a basic level. So it can be in your Facebook, it can be in a profile, it can be your you use that name, with your name, but you always highlighting it. Think like Ayahora, a word that is thank you, Ayahora. So it's Ayahora, thank you. You use that word and you can mark it down and you just say everything you thank you, Ayahora. So what do you mean? I mean thank you. Iwabuli means welcome. They say, okay, you mark it down and you use it every day. And then there is 2 words you have, and you give you an urge, you give you an interest and excitement to learn more. So it is work in progress, and I'm hoping that we can get more soldiers, boots on the ground, to enable us. I must say there are other people out there that are listening. I'm sure you're interested in the language too, and some of their keen interests, so we can network with me and see how best we can move forward with the language.
That is admirable. I commend you and congratulate you on the foresight and the work that you and your colleagues are doing.
Mhm.
Uh, Mr. Frederick, we're going to go take a break really quick, but before I go to the break, I want you to just talk a little bit about the Kalinago Week as the development officer. Um, what about the week that inspires you? What hope do you see from just coming out of that week in terms of the plans that you must be very intimately familiar with that the government has for the development of the Kalinago people?
Right. So Kalinago Week essentially is something that the government itself recognizes that the efforts of the indigenous people has been significant, and so government has given its commitment to ensuring that the Kalinago people take keen interest in ensuring that maintain and preserve the Kalinago culture and history and heritage. And so these activities were aimed at celebrating the resilience of the Kalinago people on the island. Um, and the endeavor is really to foster that continued appreciation of our heritage by central government. And that of course inclusive of our visitors. So we're happy that we're here tonight because we're expecting by next year some of our visitors to visit the island, which will of course contribute
Certainly.
to the economic activity of the Carinago territory. Of course, the persons in Dominicas are alive. And of course, it is expected that there will also be a further nurturing of all aspects of the culture while providing an impetus for the regeneration of Kalinago heritage through the language. And I am happy that Professor Fari spoke about the language. Of course, central government is very interested in providing support to the preservation of the language, the arts, the craft, the food, the beverage. We also have something from cassava that we call the wiku, which is
Mhm.
the Kalinago beverage. And of course, the myths and legends. So again, cultural icon Prosper has all the myths and the legends that he needs to share with the rest of the populace, and of course to get a whole social experience. So in a nutshell, government is really supporting the initiative, the idea, the concept, and will continue to provide that support for our indigenous people on the island.
That's great. So I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, Mr. Frederick, I'm going to start back with you, and I want you to talk about some of the challenges, some of the opportunities that you face as a people as you try to, achieve the aspirations of your people. So we'll take a quick break to get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Presented by
If you live in Canada, the US, and the UK and are looking for Dominica products including cocoa sticks, bay rum, coffee, soaps, crafts, and other popular Dominica items, then look no further. You can now shop on buydominicaonline.com, a secure, easy-to-navigate website selling a wide variety of Dominica-made and Dominica-inspired products. When you shop on buydominicaonline.com, you are helping to grow Dominica's economy. Go to buydominicaonline.com and enjoy home away from home.
People say I've got a great smile. Well, I have to say, this is all thanks to the professional team at Beacon Dental Group right here in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I've got world-class dental care. Beacon Dental Group has expert and caring staff dedicated to providing the most advanced and satisfactory treatment in all aspects of oral health. Their services are designed to meet your needs and give you a perfect smile, too. General checkups, cosmetic surgery, Gemini laser service, and advanced procedures, all in a state-of-the-art facility. Call or visit Beacon Dental Group today, 1026 Blue Hill Avenue, Dorchester, Massachusetts, or call 617-282-2146 for a smile that lights the world.
Thank you, and welcome back, listeners. There's a couple of things I would like to just mention really quick. Uh, you see the flyer flash from Man's Audio Visual. They do the graphics for this week in interview. They do a tremendous job. Any function that you have where you need uh, video work, video, audio work, Man's Audio Visual shows up very professional. They're usually punctual. They're well equipped and they have trained staff. And so they can get your program, whatever it, whether it's a funeral, a wedding, anniversary, or some other kind of function. They show up and they do a tremendous job in documenting, video documenting your event, and then they turn around and do the post production work and give you a really professional end product. So we want to big shout out to Man's Audio Visual uh, for that. The other thing is one of our main sponsors and the main supporters of this weekend interview is Beacon Dental. And we know that the CEO and president of Beacon Dental, Dr. Joseph, is going through some little bit of health, not some serious health issues event. And so we want to wish her full and speedy recovery. And I want to invite all of you TDN listeners, this weekend interview audience, to just hold her in your thoughts. Special prayer for her full recovery and for her family. It has been a challenge to deal with, I'm sure. And also, her husband is part of the Redemption Road team, and so they're pretty close to TDN and this weekend interview, and we want to wish her all the best and a speedy recovery. So, listeners, I thank you for staying with us through the break. Tonight we are talking Kalinago. We are focusing on the Kalinago people, and they just finished a week of activities where they've had Kalinago on full display. And we just learned of the tremendous work they've done in reviving their language and getting it back into mainstream. And we congratulate them for that. I understand that there's a couple songs that's done in the Kalinago language, and there's a video. So I will encourage you. So we'll talk after the program to give it to us. We will play it. We will play it on TDN TV. We'll play it on TDN radio. Maybe once in a while I'll even play it on this weekend interview, and educate people about it. I'm curious about that as well. So right before the break, Mr. Frederick, and for those of you that joined us late, Mr. Donalson Frederick is the development officer in the division of Kalinago Affairs. We were going to talk about the Kalinago people and the challenges that they face and the opportunities that are there for them. As the development officer, this is a question directly for you. What challenges do you face in bringing about the development that you desire for, or not just you, but the Kalinago people desire for themselves?
Yeah. I hora Drigo, meaning thank you. Um, the people in Dominica, the indigenous people in Dominica have faced a number of challenges. And we can talk a little bit about the cultural aspect, the traditional knowledge, and of course the language, and also talk about a little bit of the infrastructural development in the Carinago territory. I think one of the greatest challenges is the fact that um, we we are we are faced with modernization. Modernization as one of the main factors, and two, the global change in climate. These are the two significant challenges that we have, that that is currently facing us, which would of course provide another challenge. It would be the economic aspect of it. Because one, if we look at the climate aspect, the indigenous people of this island depend heavily on the natural resources of the island. And since we've been heavily impacted by these storms, um, which are more intense, it means therefore our livelihood has been affected. Um, our way of making money has been affected because a lot of people depend on agriculture. As you remember, Mr. Paris did indicate that agriculture is one of the backbone, and craft industry. As a result of that, these two key elements as it relates to our livelihood would be impacted. So these are three of the major concerns that we have. Um, we're also looking at being together as one people. The idea of segregation. I think you're aware that we have 12 hamlets, sorry, 8 hamlets in the Carinago territory, and most of the hamlets have a little bit of difference in in culture, in tradition, in heritage. And I'm sure Mr. Prosper will be able to agree with me on that. You go to the community of Bataka, you find the people they have a different approach to development, for example. Um, but going forward, I think we need to look strategically at our people, at the development of our people first. We're looking at, of course, providing education for our young persons. We're looking at ensuring that our young people attend secondary school, they attend the college and university if it needs be, to ensure that we have that personal development of our people. I think the skill sets of our people is something that is critical as well. We need to look at that for us to have a better community. We do not have to think only of the structural development, but the development of people, whether by skill or the academics of those young persons.
Yeah, so you said something very interesting that I never thought about before. I'll confess. Although I know that there are different hamlets, or if we call it villages, that make up the Carib territory, you said they're not homogeneous. They all have their own little characteristics. It's so
Right,
funny that Dominica is such a small island, but we who are outside of the territory think of the Carib territory in a blanket way. We think of the
right,
Carib territory, it starts at, it starts in Seneco and it goes all the way out. Um, and we, the first time you say that tonight and it dawns on me, it's true. They have different hamlets, and just like maybe Castlereagh is different from Saint Sauveur and is different from
right, right.
Marigot, and so the needs of your people is not an indigenous, a homogeneous need. It varies.
Yeah.
So,
So
Prosper,
Sensi,
what are some? Go ahead.
no, no, I was just saying, Sensi, for example, where you will
Uh-huh.
have a Sensi and Bataka, maybe you will have a lot more persons involved in the cultural aspect of things. That's where you will find the
Uh-huh.
dances,
Right.
the traditions, and so on. Most of that is being kept in that area, and so their needs,
Mhm.
of course, like you said, would have been different than that of Sileku, for example.
Right. And then Salibia is the main village, is the biggest
There's a
one,
village
right?
where yeah,
Salibia is the main
a lot
village.
of
Yeah.
infrastructure development. They had centers. At the time they had the boxing shed. That's where everybody used to come and bring their farming supplies and bananas and so on and so forth. The Kalinago Council was situated in Salibia, so it was like the little tongue of the Kalinago
Yeah,
territory.
the capital of the Caribbean. Yeah,
Capital, yeah.
no, certainly, I hear that. The prospect, talk on that a little bit. Um, you know how you've been involved for a long time, and so therefore you're very familiar and intimately familiar with the Kalinago people and their needs and all of that. Um, I'm going to ask you, over the years, where have you seen the most advancement? And over the years, where have you seen the need for most advancement that maybe hasn't been realized?
Yeah, I would say that the development process and the changes of don't know, talk about global changes, but even though
Mm,
we even though the word global changes, the changes that was being done in Kalinago territory so fast forwarded on the Kalinago people. For the 1960s, the road passed right through. So in terms of the shyness and the state of isolation of us in that territory, move up to public viewing, and then in 1986 your telephone attached, and then 5 years from that you had cable TV reaching us one time, and then we had to move from self-sufficient. We were planting our food that we cassava. We had to go back in 70s. We were planting bananas. We were having cash every time. Then the banana industry collapsed. We had to go to tourism industry. So people had to move and adapt to condition, and that had an effect on the culture also. So it's static. So you have things changing so quickly. But education has been the most advanced productive area in our territory. We have been moving from 1980 after Hurricane David. when secondary school was introduced in Londonderry on the north, and then Castle Bruce, where you have Kalinago children had more access to education and what you call free education on that. So we have made a very strive in more people getting educated in that form. So that is one of those things that we have to tremendous development and way forward into that line of education. So we are more people educated. But at the same time, the challenge for me as a culture officer, you have more alienation from that. So you have education, true, but you not balance because at 3 years a child lives home and doesn't know enough about family or survival skill at home, then they plunge into a straight like you have a Kalinago person going to Marigot, another culture. They spend about almost 5 6 years there. Then you take them and they send to Roseau, and then they remain Roseau, and so you say you are drawn away from your space, and it is hard to really keep and balance. So when you come back, you're almost like a stereotype kind of person, pretending what you're not to be. So you see the balance there. While it is good, but it's affecting all the way. But I think people have grown up. People are more aware that they are, and I think people are more proud of being
I
Kalinago. I
was just
must say,
going to ask you if you see
yeah,
more
people
of
are
a
more.
pride.
Yeah,
Next
and that
question.
is a time because you see, we take out the name Carib, and
Hmm.
if I put many, I was the first one to write song. No say Kalinago, because when the person call you a Carib, they mean many things. They mean you were stupid, you were rum drinker, you were poor. There were so many meaning of Carib. Kalinago means we're people of the earth. So I think it's a time when people didn't use, and that is where the word Salibia came from. Salibia was the administrative center, mostly police station. So when they ask you, either say from Salibia, you don't want to say Badaka or Sileku. Salibia was the first word in your head, or you don't say at all, where you're from. So now people are really coming out, I must say. People are more aware, people are more getting more proud, people are getting more pride into who they are. So I'm happy for that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask because now you see more um, people front and center representing themselves as Kalinago people. And I was always curious about the change in name. And I'll give you my perspective so you can. When I heard about the change in name, of course, me not being directly from the Kalinago, although I think my grandmother was fat Kalinago, but not identifying as direct line from Kalinago. Of course, I have to yield to the people and what they feel. But I was saying, was that a good move? You called Carib, the, the whole region, the Caribbean is named after you. Are we missing an opportunity for branding and for really, making the best use of being called the Carib people? And I always wanted somebody to explain to me how the name change came about from Carib to Kalinago. So I don't know if you want to if I have that question, I'm sure there's a lot of people who also have that question. I don't know if you want to spend a couple of minutes and just talk about
Well,
that.
I can do. In a hotel, the Kalinago, in history books, that is what the people call themselves. Before
Mm.
Columbus came, they call themselves.
Oh, okay, they call it
Columbus,
Kalinago.
European calls Carib, which is closely related to cannibal. Cannibal. In
Oh,
the early maps of European Columbus, he had the island of the Caribbee, which is in red. Don't go there, you'll be eaten.
oh,
To the Les Antilles, the Arawak or the Taínos that made themselves to St. Thomas up to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Hispaniola, and Cuba. But we were down there, and we were the one they meet down there. We, of course, resisted colonization from day one. Our keepers bow to them because the system of governance or pyramid, since the whole one chief, they say everybody bow to the Europeans. But the Kalinagos, when you take one chief, you take a chief, another chief get up, and we move on. So because we resisted so much, we were called cannibals, we were called warlike, we were savages. Our savagery pay off after time because right now we are here and Dominica White is here because we resisted as a people, we suffered. That is the nature isle. It's because of our forefathers that this island remained. 200 years after all the other islands was colonized, Dominica was in the hands of the Kalinago. Until the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle in 1748, the British and other French and say, well, let's leave it to the savages. Not as a gift because they couldn't take it because they resisted colonization. So calling us Caribous like, we're eating people, but the Kalinago people, that is what we call ourselves long before Columbus arrived here.
And so it's a reconnection. It's a
Yep.
reconnection to your
Yeah.
roots and your heritage. Okay, I
And
get that.
and just to add
Go
to the
ahead, sir.
conversation as well, Drago, the important thing here is that we have to tell our story. The, the,
Right.
the, the Spaniards couldn't come here and tell our story. They came and they give their version of the story. That's why they
Hmm.
call it his story. But in truth,
Yeah.
we knew exactly what we went through. And I always tell people whenever I'm speaking to them, I always let them know that Columbus visited Dominica. He never discovered Dominica. He visited because we were already here, and we played a significant part in ensuring that the Dominican the Dominica country was safeguarded. We went through genocides. They come with diseases. The amount of pain that we've been through as a result of they coming in, and we were able to resist all of this, you know, um, tells us that we are a resilient people from day one. And because of our efforts and because of the efforts of our forefathers and the great spirits, we were able to successfully secure this island named Mighty Kubuli, you know. And so a lot of the names that they brought with them were from Spain, were from the colonization aspect, and they were not unique to our Kalinago names. And so one of the things that we intend to do is to rename most of the communities in Dominica and give them their original Kalinago name. And of course the Caribbean as well, because it was an archipelago. But when they came, they say it's the Caribbean. Um, Based on their story, they say we are cannibals because when they send their guys in to chase us, we were fast. Indigenous people were very fast. We were well versed with the forest. We were well versed with the tracks. So we ran in there to hide. And when we ran in there, because of the valleys and the mountains, these guys they were not familiar with this mountains. So what happened is that they slide. They slide and fall into the valleys, and they were never found because we have valleys in Dominica, my friend. If you throw somebody down there, you will not be
You
able to see
never
them,
get them. Exactly.
recover them. You know, so these Spaniards were in the forest. Some of them they got lost and they were never recovered. And as a result, they thought that we ate those guys.
But of course, we know that the Europeans, made stories about what they wanted to. Um, we're quickly approaching the end of the hour, and so I want to both of you gentlemen a chance to talk about what maybe I didn't get a chance to ask you, but also I wanted to talk about the aspiration of the Kalinago people. What is the place of the Kalinago people in the whole development and the tapestry of Dominica? Uh, I will start with you, Donaldson. Um, what is the aspiration of your people as you look to maybe take a more prominent role in the development and the continued existence of Dominica?
Yeah. So we our people, indigenous people of Dominica, we aspire to improve our quality of life. We aspire to get greater opportunities for our people, and in doing that, contributing to a mutual understanding and trust and respect between government and the people of Dominica, and of course the indigenous people on this island. Um, I think the quality of life of our people needs to be significantly continuously looked at, to promote economic activity, for our people, and of course to carry out responsibilities to protect and improve the trust assets of our indigenous people of Waikikubuli.
So I want to stay with you a little bit longer. For example, I know, like I used to work at Dawasco, so I was involved in some of the water projects in the territory. But I know there are some communities that probably still have. I don't know if they still, because it's a while now. But what about the water supply? What about the health? education, all of those things. I mean, if you want to mention any of them specifically, but are there areas that you still are working on? Like, could you talk about the quality of life of your people?
Yes, certainly, certainly. We currently have 5 schools in the Kalinago territory, which are primary schools, and we have 8 hamlets. So these schools basically are catered to ensuring that all our students attend school, and that is primary school. So we have one in Atkinson, Salibia, Sineku, the Christian Lighthouse Academy, and that of Concord in Tuna Village. And so this is very important for us in terms of education. We think that every child deserves an education. Prosper was giving me his story some time ago. He said to me, "Boy, he never went to school. He learned on his own, and that
Mm,
was very impressive. And I think he should be used as an inspiration for others, because one of these days when we never had those opportunities, and today these opportunities are being presented to our young people. It is an opportunity for them to embrace. So that is something that is key. Education, providing ensuring that there's access to education for our children. In terms of the health access, I think a lot more can be done in terms of health. I think we in the Carinago territory deserve a type 2, a type 1 hospital or mini hospital in the Carinago territory, because we are large in terms of the land space, and most of the times we either go to Marigot, which is outside the Kalinago territory, or Casibrus for medical attention. Although we have health centers in the Kalinago territory, one in Mau River, one in Salibia, and one in Atkinson, but these are health centers which I think um, doesn't provide adequate health care for people. I mean, you have a nurse there, but let's say, for example, a resident doctor, for example. We should have a resident doctor in the Kalinago territory in one of those type 1 hospitals, and maybe an ambulance as well, to provide that kind of support to our people. So is work in progress, and I think we have the ability to make it happen. Once the opportunities presents itself, for us to do that, we will definitely take the opportunity. I mean, if we are open to sponsorship as well in the Canada, we do not want to solely depend on government, but we also want to expand our horizon through the Kalinago Council. That is because the Kalinago Council is the local governing body in the Kalinago territory that is responsible for all aspects in terms of education, the, the development itself of the Kalinago territory. The local governing body, which is the Kalinago Council, is responsible for that. Prosper himself was also part of the Kalinago Council. Where you see me there, he's a veteran, he's not a simple guy, eh?
mm. No, for
Yeah,
sure. He definitely stands as a giant in
definitely,
the Carib
definitely.
territory. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Prosper, I'm coming to you with pretty much the same type of question. Um, but you being around a little longer than Frederick, I think.
Hmm.
Um, would have seen some of the development. You've seen the role that culture has played in sensitizing your people about your culture, but also the outside also about your culture. Um, what makes you most hopeful about the aspirations of the Kalinago people?
I just have some confidence that we are getting back on track. We continue to have government supports, and but still, my concern, I want to see my people get less dependency on government and doing things that were independent. That's where we were. You feel more confident. You feel more of a person that you can do things, and if you get the tools, rather than just throwing fish in the mouth, just give the line to go to fishing. So responding, the people we had a situation in housing that we were 2000, we were very badly up in housing. That is being taken up. The health sector is coming up. In the school for education, I would like to have the people are more conscious about the Kalinago ancestry in the Kalinago proud. There are people outside of Dominica, those are in diaspora here that they are there with there. I also want to challenge people out there who are listening, people who are in the US, wherever you are. Don't forget home. Don't even think about home. So think about where you came from, and if you make that a better place when you come back. And that is what our inspiration is. If you go there with an opportunity, we should not hold it for our own, but send a line down, send a chain and pull somebody, help somebody down there get together. You can maybe sponsor Kalinago Week event, or do something for the health center, do something in education. There are many other communities that are doing that. And why our Kalinagos out there, or the people that have Kalinago ancestry, we want you to follow and do that. I don't know your condition out there. It's hard for all of us somewhere, but don't think where you escape. You cannot escape as a Kalinago. Wherever you are, you'll be identified. So we have to come back and share, come back and do something in the Kalinago territory. Sometimes we get a lot of critics. I get a lot of critics, I can tell you. But at the same time, we have to hold it. We cannot be perfect all the time, but we have a system of inclusiveness that is not out for us. Without you out there, you get our numbers, you share. What is my view? What is my role in as a Kalinago, which has maybe has a better education, has a better job than the other one that is unemployed? How can I help the elderly, the youth, these people with disability? How can I do that? Not totally rely on government to supply everything, but if we as a people come together and help each other, our country can be more, our Kalinago people can be more proud. We can more build more resilience, and we be able to live longer and more happier. Not maybe rich, but happier people.
So this is where we come to the end. However, this is truly was just an introduction. There are so many we have not even scratched. I mean, your skills in canoe making, we didn't even get to touch that. Your people's knowledge in herbal medicine and healing. I mean, that alone deserves an hour, because we know that traditionally, the Carib people, as you said, your healthcare is improving, but it has not always been the best, and you had to depend on yourself and your herbs and your familiarity with the plants around you to heal yourself and heal your people and your tradition and your rituals. So we've only scratched the surface. So certainly I'm going to want to I'm inviting both of you back. We will get it on the calendar. You might it might be two of you, it might bring somebody with you, it might be a different mix. But I certainly want to keep Kalinago as a feature on our program so we can continue this education that we started. Um, you just came out of a week of activities that both of you said were very successful. I know it's always dangerous to call people's names because then you're going to leave out one person and that person is going to be upset. But I'm going to give both of you the opportunity to highlight the folks that made it possible. If you want to mention who won the Miss Kalinago and all of that, whatever it is, and anything also that you think you would have wanted to share that we didn't get to share because the conversation went in a different direction. So I'm going to start with you, Prosper. If there's anybody that you want to shout out and say thanks to,
Oh yeah, oh yes.
this is your opportunity, and then we'll go to Donaldson.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the opportunity and the management of the what they call
Yeah, TDN.
TDN. I
Uh-huh.
just want to say a big shout out, thank you for giving us the opportunity. In the Kalinago week, I would like to say thank you to parliamentary representatives and Ministry of Kalinago Environment, Rural Modernization, and Kalinago Upliftment, Honorable Kuja Frederick. The government of Dominica has been our main sponsors, the Ministry of Culture, the UNDP, other individuals, the Kalinago Council, my members of the Events Committee. Um, and many more other people who came in. I did come here with a list of people to thank, and as you said, it is
Mhm.
difficult to mention people name, but I mentioned the main people and all of those who participated and helped. I just want to have a big thank you. We want to say that our Kalinago Kalinago Queen, Adicia Burton. She is Miss Kalinago 2022. She's a very intelligent young person, and you are the out there. You maybe want to give her a trip to the US and invite her to speak at one of your youth events. She's a very intelligent individual, and she's a good ambassador to the Kalinago people, I can tell you. And all the girls we had on the team were very good people. One is involved in sport with Tulok. Chino Tulok is playing a good national football team. She's a she plays football. We have volleyballists. We have very talented people in Kalinago territory. We just you have to discover their talents and to pull them forward and to give them encouragement as young people, because they will be taking our position, our space. They will be, we don't want them to be waiting until so much time. They have to get into leadership very early so that they can get ripened and seasoned people when they go to their middle age, 40s or 50s. So we don't compliment all these people that have come on board. And I said, we want to thank you and the staff of the radio station here for inviting us.
Thank you. And I just got chastised by one of the listeners, and I take it wholeheartedly. He says, stop saying your people and say our people, because somewhere along the line, all of us have Kalinago blood in us. And I accept that fully. As I said, my grandmother, I think, had some, I think it was maybe half Kalinago. So I accept that completely. Our people, we're all Dominicans. We all one people. So Donalson Frederick, I'll give you the same opportunity to mention and give thanks to anybody that Prosper may have missed, or somebody you want to make special mention of. And while you're at it, either one of you, somebody's also asking, how can they get in touch or keep in touch with you and follow some of the activities and get more familiar with some of those activities?
Ayahura, Ayahura. Thank you, in English. um, yeah, I also want to extend thanks to our Honorable Minister, Tubutu Iba, his Kalinago name, Jose Frederick. I think he's been very instrumental in terms of the leadership and the guidance in this entire process to ensure that we have a successful week of events for 2020, 2022. Prosper Paris had a solid woman by his side, Gwyneth Frederick. She also must be commended for her efforts in ensuring that the activities run smoothly. And of course, our students. Our students, for me, is key, and especially in the spelling bee competition, and they attending the history day. I think this is very, very, very important, and we need to highlight them and say thank you to our students who have participated in the spelling bee competition. I am so proud of our students that they at that age were able to spell the word, also say what it means, and and be able to remember it. So that was very significant for me in this year 2022 week, and I want to extend thanks to them. I think that is how we're going to be sustainable. That's how we as Kalinago is going to maintain our tradition and of course the language. So they must be commended, and I'm so happy that we get that kind of support from the teachers and the parents, you know. Um, and I'm so happy for that, and I want to thank them for that very important week of activity that we just completed.
How do people get in touch with you? How do they follow some of your activities?
Right. The cultural officer, Mr. Prosper Paris, he is also the chair of the events committee. He can be contacted. His telephone number, um, and email, of course, an email address, prosperparis@gmail.com. And you can also reach me at Donalson Frederick at gmail.com. Very, very, very easy. Donalson, Donalson Frederick, Fredprick at gmail.com. And of course, we can have a conversation and keep you updated with these activities going forward.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Paris, any final?
Yeah, I just want to say that my email is pros, P, Paris, prosparis at gmail.com.
At
So,
gmail.com.
yeah, yeah, so my 225 8940 is my telephone number. I WhatsApp on this, so it's very easy. Get the Dominic code 1767 225 8940, and you're right with WhatsApp. You can converse, you can send text messages, and we just want. I understand you're living in lower part of Washington D.C. That's where you're coming from. Your radio
No, no,
station is
I'm in
that
Brooklyn. I'm
you're in
in
Brooklyn?
Brooklyn. We're
Oh,
online. I'm in Brooklyn. My producer is in Texas. We have
um,
announcers in Canada. Um,
Okay, okay,
we fully employ the technology, and we
okay,
have listeners all over the U.S., the
okay.
Caribbean. We have in the
Yeah.
U.K. and all over the
Yeah.
world we have
So I
quite a
was
few.
wondering, one of you was recently visited the Museum of American Indian in Washington D.C.
I haven't,
If
but
you,
next time I go to DC, I'll be sure to
yeah, I was
check it out.
instrumental into who is a co-creator our
Oh, you
lives
did?
in
Okay.
2004. We opened that space up there, so
Okay.
we need to get up there and update those the history and information that is at the number three section of that our lives. It is
I
not our
certainly,
lives.
certainly.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I'll make a note so that we can
yeah,
at least get an idea of where it's at and what
yeah,
we need to do to make sure the information is up to date.
yeah.
Awesome. So
Also,
thank you very much, gentlemen. Frederick, yeah,
also,
go ahead.
I wanted to say, Ayahura to Nikutubulu. Ayahura Nikutubulu as,
Uh-huh.
as the chair and the leader.
You are bully. You are bully.
And I really like the idea of christening, because christening is a Christian thing, but renaming your people with the original Kalinago name. I love that. So gentlemen, keep up the good work. Continue to
Thank you so much.
represent your people proudly. I wish you and our people, I correct myself because I was already chastised. So I wish our Kalinago people all the best as you go forward. Let's stay in touch. And they say I need you to go up there in Canada with somebody in Canada. But all of you on the live, I want to tell you thank you so much for joining and for your active participation. Mr. Donalson Frederick, the development officer, and Mr. Prosper Paris, the cultural officer and coordinator of Kalinago Events Committee. Both of you from the Division of Kalinago Affairs. I know you just came up the week, so you must have had a jam week. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to come. I think we had a beautiful introductory conversation. So I'm definitely going to talk to the producers to find a space um, in the calendar to for the Kalinago people, and we'll contact you. You will decide if you guys come back or who else will come, and we can continue this conversation. Folks, there is a book that's written by Mr. Ali Plaza called Kalinago Blood. It's a fiction, but it really talks about the journey of the Kalinago people from the time of the arrival, even pre-arrival of the Europeans, and brings it up into contemporary times. If it's available on Amazon, called Kalinago Blood, I will encourage you to get it. It does. His writing is really vivid, and he really tries to give a good representation, although as I said it's fictitious, but you get a good sense of it. Also, Mr. Roy Sanford is no stranger to our parts. He's come on, he's read some of his stories. He came one time and did a story about a death, like his grandmother used to go when people die and try to chase out the spirit. And for weeks after that, I had folks texting and saying that they were having nightmares because his writing was so vivid and he talked about the different spirits. So you get some of those books. I don't remember Sanford's title of his book right now, but if you go on Amazon, you Google Roy Sanford, you will get some of his work. So it's not totally that we haven't represented Kalinago, we just haven't done it fully like that. Also, there's a young man that was on my show. He was mentored by a German, I think, and they built a plane in the Kalinago
Yeah, yeah.
territory and flew it out of Dominica, and now he works as a commercial pilot. He was on here, so we've had some of our Kalinago people on here telling your story, but we just need to do it more often and more frequently. So once again, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. I wish you all the best, and listeners, thank you for staying with us. I think we had a tremendous conversation. You guys have an invitation to come back, and we certainly will organize it and be ahead of your Kalinago week next year so that
We,
folks will plan to attend.
we really
Appreciate
want
it.
All right, so
we really want to come back. We really want to come back. As a matter of fact, let me just wet you with one thing that next year, 2023, we'll be recognizing the 120 years of establishment of the Carinago territory, and we will be celebrating for the entire year, 120 years. So we would
oh
really like to
wow,
be. in this program to talk about some of our activities, plans, and programs.
Certainly, as soon as you're ready, just let us know. You have our contact. Just let us know, and we will, just like we did this time, we'll bump whoever we can bump up, bring you on, and continue the education. All right. So
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much, gentlemen. Good
Ayahura.
night,
Ayahura.
listeners.
Ayahura.
Thank you. I think we had a tremendous conversation. These two gentlemen, Mr. Donalson Frederick and Mr. Prosper Paris, they definitely represented their people well. They had a very, very successful Kalinago week. Imagine a spelling bee in the Kalinago language. I mean, this is fascinating, fascinating stuff. They were the original people in the Caribbean, at least at the time of the arrival of Columbus. I heard him say that they migrated from South Africa. I think that's what I heard him say. So I'm curious about that as well. There's so many threads that we just talked on just a little bit that we can continue to explore. I have a few people who were born in the coming week, October, what is it, Libra week. So if you're celebrating your birthday, if you celebrated your birthday in the last couple of days or the next coming days, happy birthday. I see Augustine St. Louis is on. He's always on. His brother, thank you for your support. Happy birthday to you, Augustine. Today is your birthday. And if you're celebrating an anniversary, a birthday, or some other event, have a good time. Enjoy. It's perfect weather. I must say, though, for my folks in Florida, I hope that everything works out well. I know there is a hurricane that's battering. I think it's the west side is battering right now, and everybody I think in Florida is being affected by this weather system. So you are in our thoughts. We hope that you don't are not too worse for wear as the storm goes by, and we wish you a safe evening. So I'm going to leave it there and say good night, and we will see you again next week, Wednesday. Have a great weekend and a wonderful start to the start of next week. Good evening, listeners.